In this realm of impermanence, the self we cling to today may vanish into nothingness tomorrow. Today's glory can turn to ashes in a single night. Today's love can become a memory of tomorrow. Money, fame, status, all are but gentle waves that rise and then dissolve on the surface of life's waters. So, what is there to argue about? What is there to gain? Ultimately, all is but the shadow of a short dream, like morning dew on a blade of grass that vanishes when the sun rises. Some people spend their entire lives seeking validation, only wishing to prove themselves right. Yet, when their hair turns gray and they look in the mirror, they realize they lost right within their own lifetime. They lost peace, lost time, lost the serene heart they had missed out on. Because worldly gain is temporary, while the loss of one who understands the Dharma is a great victory. The Buddha taught that the self one desperately clings to will ultimately be lost. Only the self one is willing to let go of remains forever in the heart. The more one clings, the more one suffers. The more one lets go, the lighter one becomes. In this bustling, often tumultuous life, perhaps each of us has, at some point, been hurt by people's fickle hearts, exhausted by having to prove ourselves to someone, or unjustly misunderstood with no one to explain to. We say one thing, but people understand another. We desire peace, yet life keeps stirring up from small arguments, like the wind blowing through a bamboo forest. The more you resist, the more you break. But if you know how to bend, you will go further. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha once taught, "Among those who contend with me, I contend not. Among those who are angry with me, I am not angry." That teaching isn't for us to surrender, but for us to know how to conquer ourselves. To conquer others is only a one-time victory, but to conquer one's own angry mind is a lifelong victory. Some ask, if we don't contend, how can we live in this world? But I ask you, if we keep contending, have we ever found peace? We win against others, but our hearts remain uneasy. We surpass others, but we sow the seeds of discord every time we try to prove superiority. Like a handful of sand, the tighter you grip, the more it slips away. Like water, the more you stir it, the murkier it gets. The more you cling to karma, the more it grows. The more you let go, the greater your blessings. Karma isn't in what we do, but in whether our mind clings to it. Even a good deed done for recognition can sow negative karma. An ordinary act done with a kind heart can still lead to blessings. One who understands impermanence no longer seeks victory. They only seek to preserve a pure mind, because they know that if even this body cannot be held onto, how can praise, status, or being right or wrong be preserved for long? My teacher once told a story about a 90-year-old elder whose children and grandchildren were fighting over land, not even looking at each other. Yet the elder just smiled kindly and said, "They don't understand. Land doesn't follow you. When I die, I only take my blessings. The land is for karma to decide." Those words were light as the wind, yet deep as water. One who understands impermanence doesn't try to hold on to what cannot be held. They only hold on to a kind heart, because that is the only thing that isn't lost, even when this body returns to dust. dear listeners, if our mind still desires superiority, it means that mind is still lacking. If we see someone superior to us and our heart still rejoices, that is when blessings are flourishing in our mind. Life is like a rushing stream. The more one struggles, the more one sinks. One who knows how to let go naturally floats. Letting go isn't abandoning, but knowing how to breathe amidst a storm, knowing how to guard one's mind before guarding an argument. When arguments cease, the heart lightens. When the desire to prove oneself subsides, the mind becomes peaceful. In impermanence, the one who knows how to stop is the one with wisdom. Winning and losing are just fleeting winds in life, but peace is where we truly need to arrive. If we choose to yield once and preserve a peaceful mind, that is not failure, but the greatest victory of our life. When we understand that silence is not weakness, but the strength of one who sees far ahead, we will choose a different path, a path without arguments, with the gentle breath of a peaceful heart. By letting go, we don't lose. Instead, we gain much more. A tranquil heart, a gentle mind, and a sleep free from worries. And perhaps it is at that moment that we truly begin to win in this short life. If you have ever been exhausted, ever suffered injustice, ever been hurt by kindness, ever been misunderstood without a way to explain, then please stay with the Efficacious Buddhist Teachings channel and listen to this entire Dharma talk. Because, who knows, amidst today's impermanence, you might find a way back for your heart. One word, let go, can sometimes save an entire life. Winning and losing are just passing winds in life, but peace is the ultimate harbor for human existence. Life is like water. When still, it reflects the moon. When disturbed, the moon shatters into 1,000 pieces, and one cannot see one's own reflection. Humans are the same. Only when the mind is sufficiently still does wisdom emerge, and one understands what to hold on to and what to let go of. But in this life, full of change and struggle, how many are calm enough when criticized? How many are humble enough before the praise of others? People easily get angry over a single word, easily speak harsh words due to a mere slight, easily get hurt over a small matter. Sometimes, just one word to win, one argument, is enough to send a person's heart into a deep spiral of karmic suffering. Clouds still drift, wind still blows, but our hearts are filled with the dust of afflictions. The Buddha taught that nothing in this world lasts forever, including joy or sorrow, winning or losing, gaining or losing. All are impermanent, like foam on the surface of the water, appearing only to vanish. Yet, people still want to hold on, to grasp, to have the last word, to prove themselves right, to have others acknowledge their brilliance. Then we argue, we contend. We initiate a mindset of winning and losing. But the more we try to win, the more we lose. The more we try to grasp, the more we lose. Because the root of suffering lies not with those who speak ill of us, nor with those who go against our wishes, nor with life itself. The root of suffering lies within our own heart, where the arrogant ego silently grows over the years. According to the Buddha's teachings, some people like to win or lose because their mind clings too strongly, because their ego is too big. The ego is a fire that always smolders within each person. Even a small gust of wind can cause it to flare up violently. If someone goes against our wishes, we get angry, If someone is more successful than us, we feel jealous. If someone is praised, we feel resentful. If someone offends us, we want to retaliate immediately. Meanwhile, a wise person understands that these things are just fleeting winds that come and go. One who clings to them will suffer. One who can see through them will perceive the truth behind them. The bigger the ego, the more suffering. Winning and losing do not make us grow. They only make us smaller. When living by the ego, we often forget that everyone in this world has their own story, their own suffering, their own lesson to learn. On the surface, they may be more skilled than us, more successful than us. But sometimes, the one who often smiles is the one hiding tears. The silent one is the one learning to endure. The cold person is sometimes just someone who has been hurt too much. So, we don't need to be superior to anyone, nor do we need to prove anything. Because life is not a race to win or lose. Life is just a journey to learn how to understand oneself, then understand others, learn how to love, then learn how to let go. But why do people still like to win or lose? Because the three poisons in the mind still remain: greed, anger, and delusion. San, si, nga. Anger, delusion, ego. These three poisons are like three invisible ropes binding us tightly to suffering. Anger makes us want to win. Delusion makes us blind to impermanence. And ego makes us always want to be right. Because of this, we get entangled in karma, sowing angry words and reaping belated regret. One who is angry has a heart hot like fire. One who is deluded has eyes blurry like mist. One who is egoistic has ears closed to all sincere words. But life will teach us a very profound lesson. The more we contend, the more we suffer. The more we try to win, the more we lose. The Buddha taught that the more you cling to karma, the more it grows. The more you let go, the greater your blessings. Only when we realize the root of suffering lies within our own mind do we have enough wisdom to stop. Stop, so as not to continue falling into the cycle of negative karma just because of an impulsive word. There is an everyday story that has awakened many people. They call it the story of Min's ego. Min worked in a mechanical workshop. He was skilled, everyone acknowledged that. But his ego was too big. If anyone offered advice, he would get irritated, even thinking others were looking down on him. And in the workshop, everyone was afraid to talk to Min, just fearing to touch his overly sensitive ego. Min thought he deserved respect, praise, and to be valued more than others. If anyone went against his wishes, he immediately became unhappy. If the boss praised someone else, he immediately felt dissatisfied within. He didn't realize that these very thoughts were silently creating a distance between himself and everyone else. One day, a new worker named Lam joined the workshop. Lam was young, didn't have much experience, but was very diligent and learned quickly. In just a few weeks, he had caught up with the work and started completing difficult tasks. The others in the workshop saw this and praised Lam endlessly. Min heard it, and his face immediately scrunched up. An unpleasant wave surged within him. He thought, he just started, and he's already getting praised. What about me? I've worked here for so long. Why does no one say anything? His ego flared up like a fire fanned by the wind, rising higher and higher. Min began to show his attitude toward Lam, saying unpleasant things, giving feedback in a harsh tone. At first, Lam remained silent, but then he couldn't stand it anymore because he felt insulted. So the two argued, almost came to blows, making the whole team stop working to mediate. Ultimately, productivity decreased. The atmosphere in the workshop was heavy, and everyone was tired. Min was angry, Lam felt hurt, and it all stemmed from an overly large ego. That evening, Min came home and saw his young son fighting with a friend over a toy. The boy yelled, "It's mine, not yours! I have to win!" Min got angry and scolded his son, but his wife looked at the scene and said something that left Min speechless. "Don't you see? He's just like you at work." That statement was like a mirror reflecting straight into Min's heart. He stood silent for a moment. He suddenly understood that his competitive nature not only cost him peace, but also sowed poisonous seeds into his own child's soul. The words he spoke, the actions he took at the workshop, were silently becoming a reflection in the child's mind. He wasn't just losing harmony with his colleagues, but also losing peace in his family, and even passing on bad seeds to the next generation. That night, Min lay still, listening to the wind outside the porch. He suddenly realized that his ego was like an invisible wall blocking light, blocking love, and blocking all good opportunities. That ego made him lonely, made him always have to struggle, always have to prove himself, always have to be superior. And the more he tried to prove himself, the more exhausted he became. The more he wanted to win, the more he lost. For the first time in many years, Min felt a certain emptiness in his heart, but that very emptiness was the beginning of awakening. The efficacious Buddhist Teachings channel remembers the Buddha once saying, "One who conquers others gives rise to afflictions. One who conquers oneself opens wisdom. To conquer another person only creates more karma. To conquer oneself is truly precious. Winning and losing do not make us greater people. They only make us smaller within our own lives. Some people simply walk in silence, but their minds are serene, their hearts expansive. They know that each person bears their own karma. Heaven sees all, karma repays, cause and effect has never favored anyone. Whatever seed you sow, that plant will grow. If you sow angry words, you will meet with harm. If you sow a competitive spirit, you will meet with loneliness. But if you sow compassion, you will find peace." From Min's story, we clearly see that winning and losing makes people's minds lose their clarity, makes people's hearts lose their stillness, only causing us to lose the most precious things. Therefore, the lesson learned is, the bigger the ego, the more suffering. Winning and losing is not the path to happiness. Winning and losing is just a test of the mind. If we overcome it, our mind will expand. If we don't overcome it, we will live forever in the vicious cycle of anger and ego clinging. And what is worth noting is that the ego is not visible. It does not appear like a fierce beast, but hides behind seemingly ordinary statements. I just want fairness. I just want to clarify. I just want to prove I'm right. But sometimes these statements do not come from wisdom, but from an ego craving to win. So, what should we do? We don't need to win with words. We don't need to be superior with arguments. Simply a peaceful mind is the greatest victory. When others are noisy, we maintain silence. When others contend, we know to look back at our own mind. When others insult, we understand that they are suffering, and we don't need to suffer along with them. Keep your heart peaceful. Keep your mind clear, like still water for the moon to shine upon. One moment of silence can sometimes be more powerful than 1,000 rebuttals. One act of patience can sometimes be more precious than 100 arguments, because a wise person doesn't need to win. A wise person only needs to understand themselves and understand life. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that only a pure mind leads to the path of peace. When we know how to stop, how to reflect on our own mind, that is when blessings are growing. Silence is not cowardice. Silence is wisdom. Yielding is not losing. Yielding is conquering oneself. And once we conquer our own ego, life will be much lighter. People don't need to shout to prove themselves. People only need to be still for their minds to expand. Practicing. Letting go of winning and losing is the first step to happiness. Try to take a deep breath. Look back at what has passed. What did we gain from our arguments? When we tried to prove ourselves right, were we truly peaceful? If the answer is no, then perhaps it is time for us to stop and ask ourselves, so what do we gain from winning? What do we gain from losing? Even if we win an argument against someone, do we maintain peace throughout life? Or are we just harming our own mind? Remember that every struggle in human life is only to reach one thing: peace. But if contending leads to losing peace, then is that contention truly necessary? Tomorrow, the sun will still rise. The wind will still blow. The clouds will still drift. Just by learning to let go of a word about winning or losing, our mind will lighten a bit. Just by stopping before speaking an impulsive word, our blessings will increase a little. The Buddha does not ask us to become perfect. The Buddha only teaches us to gradually become people who know how to mend their minds. Because when the mind is mended, life will change. When the mind is at peace, everything will gradually become peaceful. So, if you can, please learn to be silent amidst small competitions. Because not speaking doesn't mean we lose. It means we understand that heaven sees all, karma repays, and cause and effect has never overlooked anyone. We just need to live kindly, live true to our spiritual path, and then leave everything else for heaven and earth to decide. That is the lightest, most wise, and most profound way of living. This life is like the surface of a lake on a windless evening. When the water is still, the moon can reflect. When the heart is calm, wisdom can be seen. Human life is similar. There are times when the more we try to speak up, the more we muddy our own minds. The more we try to argue right and wrong, the more we lose our peace. Words are sometimes like stones thrown into a lake. Once they plunge in, ripples follow one another, making the heart unable to reflect itself anymore. Clouds still drift, wind still blows, but within, there is no longer the peace we longed for. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent. Humans are born, grow old, and eventually return to dust. A word spoken is also impermanent. The moment we get angry is also impermanent. Emotions flare up and then float away like water carrying clouds to the horizon. But the scary thing is not that emotions come, but that we hold onto them. When we cling to an angry word, that anger is no longer impermanent, but becomes karma. When we cling to an insult, that pain is no longer fleeting, but becomes a burden that follows us every step of the way. The sun on the rooftop can be scorching in the morning, but by afternoon, it softens. But if the human heart doesn't know how to settle, even the darkness of night can make our heart burn like fire. Some say silence is defeat because one cannot respond, cannot prove oneself. Some think silence is weakness because one lacks the courage to argue. Others see silence as endurance, accepting suffering so as not to displease others. But silence in the Dharma is not endurance, not timidity, and certainly not defeat. Silence in Buddhism is wisdom. It is stopping karma. It is protecting one's own blessings and peace. Sometimes a silent person isn't silent because they don't know what to say, but because they know that speaking will hurt both sides. Sometimes a silent person isn't silent because they lack arguments, but because they know that even arguments cannot save an already inflamed mind. In Buddhist terms, silence is a turning inward. When we are silent, it's not that we hear nothing, but that we hear more clearly. When we don't respond, it's not that we have no intention, but that we clearly see that all intentions are merely temporary phenomena of consciousness. When we are silent, we are reflecting on ourselves to see where anger comes from, where hurt originates, and where compassion has gone astray. One who doesn't understand will think we've lost, but one who understands will know that we are stepping out of the battle. Because all arguments are just clouds passing across the sky. If clouds cannot maintain their shape, how can right and wrong maintain a person's heart? In human psychology, there's always a part of us we don't often look at. That place contains old wounds, unhealed memories, and even the fear of abandonment and the craving for recognition. When others say something that touches our heart, they aren't actually touching the present. Invisibly, we have opened the door to the past, allowing old wounds to rush back. We get angry, not because the statement itself was too harsh, but because we once heard a similar statement from someone that hurt us. We feel wounded not because the person was wrong, but because we are inherently afraid of loneliness. The human mind is as deep as water. Many times, we forget that we ourselves have dark corners that need forgiveness. Therefore, when someone offends us, retaliating immediately may not necessarily bring relief. Sometimes, it only hurts us again. An ordinary story like this might help us understand that better. They say that in a small market in the city, there was a woman named Ms. Sao who sold vegetables. She was gentle, soft-spoken, and lived honestly from dawn till dusk. Every morning, she would wake up early to gather vegetables from gardens and then arrange them neatly at the market. Customers liked her stall because her vegetables were fresh, her words were kind, and she would even let those short on money pay later. But right next to her stall was a neighbor named Huang, whose personality was completely opposite. Huang was sharp-tongued and often tried to steal customers with unpleasant words. Whenever she saw customers approaching Ms. Sao's stall, she would intervene, saying that Ms. Sao's vegetables weren't good, adding a few words that made first-time buyers hesitate. Sometimes, Huang even falsely accused Ms. Sao of mixing old vegetables to sell more. These bitter words repeated for years. The market vendors sympathized with Ms. Cao, but no one dared to speak up to Huang for fear of trouble. The strange thing was that despite being insulted so many times, Ms. Cao never argued back. She just silently and regularly arranged her vegetables, smiled at customers, and maintained her composure, even if she felt a little sad inside. Someone asked her, "Why do you let people insult you without resisting?" She just smiled kindly and said, "If I argue, I'll become like them. If I get angry, I'll lose the most precious thing, my inner peace. I just need to live without shame in my heart. What others say is their karma. Maybe if I don't react, I'll lose customers initially. But losing a vegetable buyer is not as important as losing my blessings." Then one day, that often abusive neighbor had a small accident on her way to the market. Her motorbike skidded, causing her to fall. Her leg hurt and blood flowed. Passers-by were all in a hurry. No one stopped to help. Suddenly, the first person to run to help her was Ms. Cao. She helped Huang onto her motorbike and took her to the hospital. A few hours later, after her wounds were bandaged, Huang sat silently for a moment, then burst into tears. She spoke through sobs. "For years I've slandered you, competed for your customers, falsely accused you. Yet today, you're the one who saved me. Why are you so kind?" Ms. Cao gently placed a hand on her shoulder, smiled, and said, "I was silent to preserve my blessings, not to lose to you." Hearing those words, the neighbor seemed to awaken from a long dream. From that day on, Huang completely changed. She no longer competed as before, and gradually became more kind. Everyone in the market clearly saw this change, and it all stemmed from the power of silence. That very silence preserved blessings for Ms. Cao, and also opened an opportunity for Huang to reflect on her own mind. Many said Ms. Cao was gentle, but in truth, she wasn't gentle. She was strong. Strong, not because she retaliated, but because she had enough wisdom to understand that if she got angry, she would only create more karma. The Buddha taught that when others are angry at us, our silence is our victory. Not victory over others, but victory over the ego in our mind. Other people's words only reach our ears unless we open the door for them to enter our heart. One who understands this no longer wants to argue, because they know that a minute of silence can save a lifetime. In the scriptures, there is a saying that if someone is angry and we add to the argument, it is like fanning a fire. The fire will grow stronger, not diminish. But if we are silent, it is like pouring water. Water makes no sound, but its power is healing. A monk once said, "Silence is like a calm lake in a deep forest. The lake does not speak, but it allows everyone who passes by to see their own reflection." Silence is sometimes not the answer, but a mirror that helps others see their own faults. Silence helps us stop karma, preserve blessings, and protect ourselves. When we don't retaliate, we prevent the karmic stream from continuing. When we don't argue, we retain the blessings we sowed through good deeds before. Silence is the softest yet strongest shield to protect our soul from storms of anger. 1 minute of silence is 1 minute of mind. We have a chance to return to our breath. 1 minute of silence is 1 minute where we don't sow more negative causes. And who knows, just 1 minute could save a whole lifetime from suffering. Looking back, we will see that the times we argued did not necessarily make us happier. The times we retaliated did not necessarily make us stronger. But the times we knew to be silent, we felt our minds lighten. At that moment, we understood that taking a step back is not losing, but making way for peace to come forward. Perhaps from now on, we should practice listening more than speaking. We should practice observing our own hearts before reacting. When someone hurts us, remember that they are also suffering. If we get angry, we will suffer with them. But if we maintain silence, who knows? We might become the boat that carries them to the shore of peace. Life has never been a race. It's not about who speaks better or reacts faster, but a journey to see who can keep their mind clear longer. If we remain silent amidst criticism, we are keeping our mind from getting angry. If we remain silent amidst false accusations, we are protecting our mind from further harm. If we remain silent before provocation, we are opening the door for love. And if we are silent at the right time, wisdom will answer for us. So, if you can, let life become lighter by living with a tranquil mind and a gentle heart. Believe that heaven sees all, karma repays, and cause and effect has never erred for anyone. Silence is not to lose. Silence is to protect blessings. Silence is not to endure. Silence is to sow seeds of kindness. Silence is not timidity. Silence is to listen to the voice from one's own heart. One day, when we walk on the path that was once full of strong winds and storms, we will understand that often we don't need to shout that we are right. We just need to walk in silence and keep our mind serene. Life itself will answer for us by showing others the light from within us. When the mind is good, life will be warm. When the heart is at peace, everything will be clear. Don't contend, just be silent. Heaven sees all, karma repays. Under this vast sky, sometimes we look up at the drifting clouds and wonder, why are the clouds so dark today? Is it going to rain? But then, just a gentle breeze passes, the clouds disperse, and the sky brightens again. Life is also like the impermanent layers of clouds in the sky. Sometimes it's gloomy, sometimes it's clear and blue. There are times when the wind blows so hard it seems to crush everything. But then peace returns. Whether white clouds or dark clouds, they cannot stay forever. The people who hurt us, the bitter words, the misunderstandings, the unjust accusations that seem impossible to escape, are also like those clouds. In time, they will disperse in the world, operating according to the law of karma. No one can make another suffer forever, nor can anyone enjoy blessings forever. Everything revolves in the wheel of samsara, silently but precisely, slowly but fairly. Just as when we stand by the still water of an autumn lake, every falling leaf creates a ripple, however small, that spreads further and further. At some point, when our mind is clear enough to see, we will realize that nothing in this world is truly lost. It is only transforming, silently returning what was sown before. Many people pass through our lives like a biting winter wind, thinking they have the right to judge, to hurt, thinking they can win with words, with tricks, with hidden talents. But heaven sees all, virtue has its spirit, and karma always records every footprint we leave. The Buddha taught that karma does not lie in what we do, but in whether our mind clings to it. A person can do wrong, but if their mind is awakened, knows how to repent, knows how to stop, they can transform their karma. But if a person sows karma in their heart with hatred, wanting to win, wanting to be superior, wanting to prove themselves right, then in that very moment, karma clings deeply to their mind, like tree roots, embedding themselves in the earth. And one day, it will bear fruit. The cause sown today yields the effect tomorrow. The words we speak today, karma follows into future lives. Others may misunderstand us, conspire against us, make our reputation waver, our credibility suffer. But the law of karma does not deviate because of this. There is no need for resentment, no need for anger, no need for revenge. Because whoever sows what seeds will sooner or later reap the fruit of that action. There are people who, when suffering injustice, often ask, "Why am I kind, yet I get hurt? Why do I live well, yet I'm still slandered? Why do I do nothing wrong, yet I'm still disliked?" That question sounds like the sigh of an evening by the river when the boat has docked. But the human heart is still troubled and restless. But if we look with the eyes of Buddhist teachings, we will see that life does not operate according to human desires, but according to the karmic force of each individual. Whoever previously spoke cruel words to others, even if forgotten, that cause still resides in the subtle karmic stream flowing back into their life. Whoever hurt someone by lying or slandering, even if no one knew, that cause still resides somewhere in the unconscious and will return when conditions are ripe. Sometimes it returns in the form of a word that hurts us. Sometimes it's an unfavorable event. Sometimes a loved one leaves for no reason. Therefore, it's not that if we are silent today, we will lose. Rather, it is when we keep our heart from letting anger obscure wisdom that we are winning in a deeper way. That is conquering karma, conquering the mind that seeks revenge, conquering the anger that stirs our mind and pushes us into suffering. Human psychology often cannot tolerate the feeling of being misunderstood. Everyone wants to prove themselves right. Everyone wants to be recognized fairly. But the more one tries to prove oneself, the more easily one falls into frustration. The more easily one gets hurt. It's like a person standing by a lake. The more they try to suppress the ripples, the further the circles spread. In Buddhism, that is called clinging to the ego. We think our ego must be protected, must be respected, must explain right and wrong. But the more we protect it, the more we suffer. Because of a very simple truth, those who misunderstand us often don't want to understand. They just want to win. And when a person already wants to win by belittling others, the more we explain, the more reasons they have to attack. Therefore, silence is not defeat, but withdrawing our mind from an invisible battle. Where every word turns into a weapon, every thought can become an arrow piercing us. Silence is a step back to preserve the moonlight in our heart before it is covered by dark clouds. In a small company located in a city corner, there is a story that has made many people reflect. People passed around the story of Ms. Lan, a gentle employee who always worked diligently, never competed, never sought to win or lose. Many liked her for her kindness, while some were annoyed because her superiors favored her. Among them was a person named Hao, who always harbored an inexplicable envy. Once, the company launched a new project, and Lan was praised for her excellent work. Hao saw this and thought he must find a way to discredit her to prove he was the worthy one. So Hao began to fabricate stories, saying that Lan stole ideas from internal documents, and then Lan spread those rumors in whispers during break time. Things spread like wildfire, reaching the superiors, and Lan was called into a meeting. No one believed her explanations. Facing misunderstanding, pressure, and the suspicious gazes of her colleagues, Lan remained silent. People thought she was silent because she couldn't refute, but in reality, she knew that the more she explained, the deeper people would dig. Lan still came to work every day, still worked consistently. She told herself that if she was not wrong, karma would provide the answer at the right time. Time passed, and it seemed as if everything had been buried. But a few months later, the company conducted a system check and discovered that the person who modified the reports to steal ideas was Hao. They found traces in the file history. Immediately, Hao was fired. The noisy story from before now subsided, leaving only one thing that surprised everyone. Lan was called up by the director to apologize. She even received a raise and congratulations for maintaining the integrity of an honest worker. In that meeting, Lan just smiled kindly, saying she bore no resentment because karma always provides an answer. The story of Ms. Lan moved many people, not because she was vindicated, but because of how she guarded her mind. Amidst the storms of hurt, she did not complain, did not retaliate, and did not fall into the ego's trap. That was not weakness, but wisdom. Wisdom sees that everything has a cause. Every misunderstanding can be old karma bearing fruit, and all suffering can become an opportunity to learn how to calm oneself. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha once taught that if a person can repay karma with equanimity, then that karma is light. But if that person becomes angry and resists, then that karma will become many times heavier. The Zen masters also taught that amidst winning and losing, if we maintain silence, then all invisible forces will stand on our side. That silence is virtuous conduct, and also the answer of a soul that has understood the law of karma. Karma does not err. The universe does not forget. Nothing sinks into darkness forever without being illuminated. Just as a long night seems endless, but dawn will still come. Whoever harms us, they will sow an unwholesome seed in their own heart. Whoever misunderstands us, they're creating future suffering for themselves. We don't need to retaliate, don't need to speak harshly, don't need to prove ourselves. Because the more we try to retaliate, the more we become like the person who hurt us. Living peacefully is the clearest answer. Patience is the path to preserve blessings. Silence is the wall that protects the mind. That is not weak endurance, but an understanding of how the universe operates. A far-sighted person is not one who speaks much, but one who knows when to stop. From that story, the lesson learned becomes very clear. One does not need to win with words to be considered strong. True strength lies in keeping the mind unwavering amidst the storms of life, keeping the heart untainted by judgmental gazes, keeping one's breath gentle even when misunderstood. The Buddha once taught that one who is harmed but whose mind is not angry will accumulate great blessings. One who conquers the anger in their heart is the greatest victor. If we are willing to take a step back to calm our mind, we will see that everything that happens is leading us to a deep understanding that life is not about winning or losing, but about learning to open our hearts. If someone doesn't understand us, let time speak for itself. If someone hurts us, let karma guide the way. As long as we continue to live kindly, our very blessings will be the shield that protects us. Amidst the storms of daily life, when facing annoyances, we can apply a very gentle yet some wise principle. Instead of reacting immediately, breathe slowly. When the mind is calm, decisions will be clear. Ask yourself, does this reaction come from wisdom or from hurt? If it comes from hurt, then be silent for a moment to allow the wound time to heal. If you are tempted to win or lose, remember that karma does not sleep. Every action today is sowing a seed for tomorrow. We can use words to win against someone today. But don't forget that tomorrow, something else will be waiting for us at the next crossroads. Therefore, preserving blessings by keeping a pure heart is the brightest path to walk through life without losing oneself. If you ever feel suffocated by misunderstanding, remember the image of the moon reflecting on the water. If the water is disturbed, you won't see the moonlight. If the mind is disturbed, you won't clearly see the law of karma. Wait for the wind to subside. Wait for the water to calm. And then the moon will appear, and justice will be served. There's no need to convince anyone, no need to prove anything, because heaven sees all, and the law of karma is always fair. Let me gently offer you a few small words, like a warm ray of light in the heart. This life is not a place for winning and losing, but a place to learn how to grow within. Karma spares no one. So, don't harbor resentment. If you can maintain a kind heart, the universe itself will stand by you. All you need is to continue living kindly, for heaven is watching, and karma is steadily being repaid. Amidst the turning of life, sometimes we sit silently, watching the evening sky, and suddenly feel that time never waits for anyone. Yellow leaves eventually fall, flowers bloom, and then wither. River water flows past and never returns. Everything is drifting away according to the law of impermanence, without needing to ask if we are ready. People spend their entire lives trying to hold on, to grasp, to control what they think belongs to them. But the tighter they hold, the more exhausted they become. Just like holding a handful of sand, the tighter you squeeze, the more you lose. Sometimes, letting go is the only way for your hands to feel light. In this life, there are things we think we gain by holding on. But in truth, letting go is the most complete gain. Those who are still burdened often ask, if I let go, what will I lose? But one who understands the Dharma will ask, if I don't let go, what am I losing in my mind? Clouds don't hold their shape, which is why they can freely soar across the sky. The wind doesn't hold its path, which is why it can weave into every nook and cranny. Bamboo doesn't hold its strength, but knows how to bend, which is why it doesn't break in a storm. And when humans know how to let go at the right time, they are opening the door for their mind to return to peace. According to Buddhist teachings, people suffer not from lack, but from clinging. We don't suffer because we don't have much, but because we always want more. We don't suffer because of others, but because we care too deeply about others. Worldly people fear letting go, thinking it means losing, giving up, or being disadvantaged. But one who understands the Dharma knows that letting go is not abandoning everything, but putting down what weighs heavily on our hearts. Letting go is a conscious choice to keep the most important thing in this life: peace. In the Dhammapada, it is taught that one who knows not to cling is the true owner. For everything we hold today is merely borrowed for this lifetime. The truth is, there are things we think belong to us, but they are actually controlling us. There are relationships we think will end if we let go. But it's precisely when we let go that the opportunity to heal begins. There are competitions where we think holding on is victory. But in reality, when we put it down, we realize we have conquered ourselves. Letting go is not losing. It is regaining freedom for the mind. The human mind always has a tendency to grasp, to possess. From birth, we have been accustomed to grasping everything to ensure safety. A small child, when frightened, will hold their mother's hand tightly. As we grow, we grasp onto honor, money, affection, status. We hope that if we hold on tightly, we won't lose anything. But the older we get, the more we realize that the very things we fear losing are the things that cause us the most unease. Therefore, those who do not yet understand Buddhist teachings often misunderstand the word let go. They think letting go means everything is over, helplessness, or abandoning responsibility. But in Buddhism, letting go is courage. Courage to face oneself. Courage to realize where one is hurting. Courage to choose to stop at the right time. If we don't let go when we need to, the mind will get tired, the body will get sick, and the family will be in discord. The more we cling, the more we worry. The more we hold on, the more we fear losing. The more we cling, the more karma we create. That is the spiral that exhausts people without them knowing why. There's an everyday story that has made many people reflect. In a rural area in the Mekong Delta, there was an old man named Tam, a kind farmer who lived simply with a small garden and an old tiled roof house. His land had been passed down from his grandfather's generation. Everyone thought it was an unchangeable inheritance. However, his relatives on his mother's side conceived the idea of disputing it. They sued, claiming the land belonged to their family line. From that point began a stressful period that lasted over 20 years. Both sides went to court, documents constantly flying back and forth, and family harmony was lost. Siblings looked at each other with cold eyes, and every meal in the house was as gloomy as a sunless evening. Mr. Tam initially resolved to hold on to the land at all costs, believing it was the fruit of his ancestors' labor. He told his wife that if they didn't keep it, nothing would belong to their family anymore. But the more he held on, the more he suffered. His entire youth passed in litigation. Each time he signed new papers, each time he stepped into the courtroom, he clearly felt his mind heavy, as if weighed down by stones. Yet he still wanted to hold on, thinking that if he let go, he would lose. One day, nearing 70, Mr. Tam fell ill. The doctor told him his heart was weak, and he needed to maintain inner peace if he wanted to recover. He was not allowed to get angry, not to overthink, not to contend. One day, his son sat by his bedside, watching him thoughtfully gaze out the window, the afternoon sun gently illuminating his wrinkled face. He slowly said, "I've thought about it. I won't hold on to the land anymore. I'll hold on to peace." That statement resonated like a bell in the midst of a noisy life. In his age-dulled eyes, one could see the brightening of his soul. A few weeks later, he voluntarily went to the lawyer's office and signed papers relinquishing his claim to the land, in exchange not for money, but for harmony among his siblings. From then on, there were no more arguments in the house. He lived for another 10 healthy, light-hearted years, strolling in his garden every day. People in the neighborhood said that since he let go of the land, he looked younger, as if he had gained another lifetime to live. Mr. Tam's story makes many think about a truth. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is conquering oneself, conquering the fear of loss, conquering the greed to hold on, conquering the stubbornness to prove right or wrong. Many people came to visit him. Some even regretted that he lost the land. But he just smiled kindly and said, "If I lose the land, I still have breath to live. But if I keep the land and lose peace, I lose everything." Those words were like a gentle breeze rustling the bamboo branches behind the house, a soft sound, yet profoundly deep. On his last day, he looked at his children and grandchildren, smiled, and said, "The only thing I'm holding on to until death are blessings. The land is for karma to choose. What we cling to will eventually be lost. What we let go of remains forever in the heart." In the scriptures, there is a teaching from a bodhisattva that says, every time we let go of a clinging thought, in that very moment, our mind expands a bit more. One who holds on to stones cannot swim across the river. To go far, one must learn to lighten their heart. The Buddha also said that the root of all suffering is a mind that clings. When we no longer grasp tightly, we will no longer fear loss. When we no longer fear loss, we will be calm in the face of all changes. Life is always changing, like water flowing in a river. No one can keep today's current for tomorrow. So instead of holding on, learn to see everything as karma. When it comes, welcome it. When it goes, smile. And let peace remain in your heart. The lesson from the story is not to abandon responsibility or live carelessly, but that when we understand that peace is more precious than possession, we will know how to set the right value for everything in life. There are things that, by holding on, create blessings, but there are also things that, by holding on, only create karma. There are times when we must fight to protect the truth, but there are also times when we must stop to protect our breath. We must know when to advance and when to retreat. Like a boatman who knows when to row with the current and when to stop paddling and let the current carry the boat. Not all efforts are right. Sometimes, gentle letting go is wisdom. So, when life pushes and pulls, try to ask your heart, what am I holding on to? And why? If holding on makes your heart heavy, if holding on brings discord to your family, if holding on makes your mind sick, then perhaps it's time to learn to let go. Letting go is not giving up. It is choosing the path of peace to continue. And who knows, when we set our burdens down, we might gain enough strength to go further. Someone once said that letting go is a silent form of happiness. Only those who have carried heavy hearts truly understand its lightness. It's like taking a deep breath after many days of worry, only to realize that ordinary breathing is also a great gift. This life has taught us that some things we thought belonged to us are actually just guests that come and go. Some things we thought would be with us until death actually only accompany us for a part of the journey. The only thing that stays with us until the end of life is whether our soul is at peace or not. If our mind is as heavy as the sky before a rainstorm, then no matter how much wealth we have, we won't find happiness. But if our mind is light like a cloud drifting after the wind, then even a simple meal with loved ones is enough to feel happy. Therefore, one who understands the Dharma does not choose to keep everything, but chooses to keep the most important thing, inner peace. Let me offer a few words to guide those who are tired of holding on for too long. Ask your heart what it needs most. If it needs stillness, let go of your worries. If it needs peace, put down the battles of winning and losing. And if you have ever been hurt by contention, think of Mr. Tam's words. If I lose the land, I still have breath to live. But if I keep the land and lose peace, I lose everything. Letting go is not losing, but a return to oneself, to one's breath, to a tranquil mind. When the mind is light, life becomes peaceful. When the heart is at ease, heaven and earth suddenly become vast. This life is like a river flowing through many seasons. Sometimes the water is calm as a mirror. Sometimes the wind blows strong, creating waves that hit the banks. Sometimes moss covers the stones, making people feel as if they are forever entangled and cannot escape. But no matter which direction the river flows, it carries within it an unchanging law. Everything is impermanent. Every encounter carries a karmic connection. Everyone who appears in our life has their own role. Those who come to us in peaceful times give us warmth. Those who enter our lives with suffering give us growth. Those who make us angry give us an opportunity to reflect on ourselves. All are playing their roles in the drama of karma. As for us, we will learn to master our hearts so as not to be carried away by emotions every time life shakes us. When young, many people wonder why they always encounter injustice, why good people suffer, why kind people are misunderstood. Sometimes we feel that the clouds in the sky also cast a gloomy layer over our soul. But no matter how thick the clouds, they cannot completely cover the sun. There are things we perceive as cruel injustice that are actually doors opening to wisdom. There are people who break our hearts, who are actually helping us repay karma. Just as the lotus flower can only bloom in mud, our minds can only shine when we know how to overcome adversity. The more one understands the Dharma, the more grateful one feels to those who have hurt them, because they are the ones who helped us learn the greatest lesson: how to love when hated, how to listen when misunderstood, how to be calm when others are angry. In Buddhism, no encounter is meaningless. Every karmic connection weaves together like an invisible net. The first baby who smiles at us on the street is also a karmic connection. The vendor who shouts at us when we're not paying attention is also a karmic connection. Sometimes a karmic connection brings joy. Sometimes it brings challenges. The Buddha taught that every emotion we generate towards another person reflects what our own mind contains. Therefore, when we are angry with someone, look into our own mind before blaming them. When we feel pity for someone, perhaps we were once like them. When we feel annoyed by someone, perhaps they are helping us practice the lesson of patience. Everyone who enters our life is like a mirror, reflecting what we have sown before. Someone once said, "In this world, 3 kinds of people enter our lives. Those who love us bring us blessings. Those who hate us bring us wisdom. Those who hurt us give us the opportunity to repay karma." It seems like a simple statement, but the more we reflect, the deeper its meaning. When someone helps us, we feel warmer. When someone hurts us, we feel stronger. And when someone makes us think deeply, we understand how to reflect on our own mind more clearly. Like a bamboo tree standing in the wind, the more it is blown by the wind, the more it learns to bend so as not to break. Humans are the same. The more challenges we face, the more we learn to humble our ego to grow. The human mind, when facing hurt, often reacts by resisting when someone makes them sad or angry. The first reaction is usually self-defense. We easily think, "Why did that person behave that way?" We want to find reasons to explain their behavior, and inadvertently, we make our own heart heavier. In Buddhism, that is called clinging to emotions. When we cling, we suffer. When we cling to the words of others, we let them control our mind. But when we look at them with the eyes of karmic connection, we will see differently. We understand that sometimes that person did not come to hurt us, but to help us repay an invisible debt from a previous life. Thanks to them, we learn the lesson of letting go. The moonlight reflecting on the water never resists. Even if waves make the water ripple, the moon continues to shine, and the water eventually calms and settles. One who cultivates the mind is the same. When someone disturbs their mind, instead of reacting strongly, they can keep their mind still, like water, and clear, like the moon. When the water settles, the moon's reflection becomes clear. When the mind settles, wisdom appears. But a mind full of anger and resentment will be like stirred, murky water, unable to see the good hidden beneath. There is a beautiful story about this lesson. It's the story of Teacher Mai and a student named Hao. Ms. Mai was a 7th grade teacher. In her class, there was a very rebellious student. He often teased his classmates, spoke rudely, made the classroom noisy, and clearly showed a defiant attitude. Many teachers before her had punished him severely, but he never changed. Everyone thought he was a difficult child to teach. Some even thought he would soon drop out because he couldn't last long. At first, Ms. Mai also felt annoyed because Hao frequently disrupted the class. However, she didn't rush to blame or punish him. She slowly observed him for a few weeks. She noticed that sometimes Hao's eyes were not those of a defiant person, but of a child trying to hide something. Through patient investigation, she discovered that Hao grew up in a family severely lacking in love. His mother died when he was young, and his father was immersed in alcohol all day. His house had no laughter, only the sound of glasses clinking on the table and the stumbling footsteps of a drunk man. He had no one to share with, so he chose to react to the world by seeking attention. Miss Mai understood that Hao was not a bad child. He just didn't know how to call for a little love. She decided not to punish him anymore, but to try to get close to him like a mother. She spent time talking with Hao. After school, she patiently retaught him what he had missed due to lack of guidance. She taught Hao how to fold clothes neatly, how to greet politely, how to listen when others spoke. She knew that if she didn't help him now, he would be forever lost in life. Time passed, and how gradually changed. He learned to listen more, speak more moderately, and study harder. One day, she saw him sitting quietly alone at the back of the class. When she asked, he said, "I miss my mom." She just silently placed a hand on his shoulder and said that he still had the opportunity to live a very good life. Even though his mother was gone, she surely wished for him to grow up and live kindly. Those words seemed to gently soothe the wound in his heart. Many years later, Hao graduated from college, had a stable job, and a new life full of vitality and maturity. One day, Hao returned to visit his teacher. He gave her a bouquet of flowers and said, "It's because you didn't get angry with me that I am here today." She just smiled, looking at him, knowing in her heart that the person who had once made her struggle had now become a beautiful result of patience and love. The story of Ms. Mai makes us think of the Buddha's teachings in the Dhammapada. If no one hates us, how can we have the opportunity to understand compassionate mind? If no one hurts us, how can we learn to heal? If no one makes us angry, how can we know how much we clung to our ego? The most precious thing is not that we have never been hurt by anyone, but that after suffering hurt, we still keep our mind free from resentment. That is, adverse conditions aiding the path, meaning that adversity, what goes against our wishes, is precisely what helps us walk the spiritual path. My teacher taught that adverse conditions are not meant to harm us, but to help us train our minds. The more one understands this, the less one blames others, and the more one feels compassion for them. So, what is the lesson learned from the stories of people and karma? It is not to hastily conclude who is right or wrong when we don't truly understand the underlying karmic connections. Don't let a single word hurt you for so long. Don't let one misunderstanding make you think you are unfortunate. The person who hurts us may be helping us repay karma. The person who makes us angry may be helping us cultivate our mind. The person who speaks harshly to us may simply be carrying more pain than we are. If our mind is expansive enough, we will see them as more pitiful than blameworthy. If our mind is patient enough, we will know that everything has a reason. When we understand that everyone in our life is a lesson, we will no longer feel loss, only growth. In daily life, we can apply this by practicing looking at others with the eyes of karmic connection. When someone annoys us, try to take a deep breath and ask ourselves, is that person suffering? When someone judges us, ask ourselves if they are lacking self-confidence. When someone rejects us, ask if we were too demanding. Each such question is an opportunity to open our minds to see life through the light of the Dharma. On quiet evenings, if you have time, listen to yourself. If you feel angry, ask where that anger comes from. If you feel lonely, ask when you stopped loving yourself. If you feel sad, remind yourself that the clouds will clear, and tomorrow the sky may be very blue. Our mind is the same. As long as there is breath, there is an opportunity to change. Like the sound of a temple bell in the deep night. It doesn't need to say much. Just one sound makes the listener stop and settle. Similarly, we don't need to contend to prove anything. We just need to keep our mind peaceful, to be strong enough to overcome everything. Remember that no matter how anyone treats you, each person bears their own karma. If we live kindly, blessings will remain. If we know how to let go at the right time, our mind will be at peace. If we don't blame others, we have conquered ourselves. That is the greatest victory in life. The path of spiritual practice is not a path of perfection, but a path of awakening. We don't need to become saints to be able to love. A practitioner just needs to reduce anger a little each day, reduce clinging a little, reduce suffering a little. And that is enough for life to gradually change. And looking back, we will see that the adverse conditions that once hurt us are the bricks that build our inner strength. Today, we can have a gentle reminder for our soul. If you meet someone who causes you suffering, calmly tell yourself, "This is a lesson for me." If you meet someone who makes you angry, remember that no matter how strong the wind, it must eventually stop. If you feel your heart heavy, try to let go a little, to allow the clouds a place to drift away. Everyone we meet is a teacher. Every pain we endure is a lesson. Every day that passes is an opportunity to grow more than yesterday. As long as our mind still wishes to live kindly, karma will always stand by us. Heaven sees all, and karma repays. But if we can maintain a peaceful mind, blessings will surely come, and life will be lighter. This life can be compared to the sky, constantly changing colors. Sometimes it's clear as morning dew on leaves. Sometimes it's dark with clouds and storms. Clouds come and go. Wind blows and stops. The sun sets and rises again. Everything has its cycle. But there's one thing people often forget. Our own minds also have such storms. Sometimes peaceful, sometimes angry, sometimes wanting to pour out everything. Sometimes wanting to remain silent to protect the good that remains. Every time anger flares up, it's like a sudden whirlwind sweeping across a field. If we don't have deep roots like a great tree, we can easily be blown over. The more years pass, the more we understand that impermanence lies not only in external circumstances, but in the fluctuations within our own minds. A wise person is not one who has never been angry, but one who knows how to keep their mind calm even when storms rage outside. In Buddhism, patience, Nhan, is not weak endurance, but knowing how to keep the mind clear amidst storms. Patience is not losing out, but conquering oneself. Because if someone speaks harsh words, if someone insults us, and we retaliate with anger, then we are the first to drink the poison cup called resentment. Responding with harsh words might give us a moment of satisfaction, but it can leave a wound that lasts a lifetime. 1 minute of anger obscures wisdom. 1 minute of patience brings blessings. That's why there's a saying, 1 moment of patience, 100 blessings. 1 minute of anger, 1,000 lifetimes of karma. Stopping before words burst out can sometimes protect our future. Human nature is to react when insulted. When we see others wrong, we want to tell them. When we hear someone attack us, we want to retaliate immediately. The angry mind is like a fire, always ready to flare up. If we are not mindful for even a moment, all the peace accumulated over time will vanish. We often mistakenly believe that patience is weakness, while speaking our mind is strength. But if we look deeply into our minds, we will see that one who knows how to be patient is the one who truly masters themselves. One who knows how to endure sees that the most important thing is to maintain a stable body and mind. In the Sutra of 42 chapters, there is a saying, "The strong person is not one who overcomes others, but one who overcomes oneself." When angry, but not letting anger lead. When sad, but not letting sadness obscure the light of reason. When insulted, yet maintaining a peaceful mind. That is the root of the Dharma. There are times when patience is silence, but silence is not to escape, but to settle. Just as still water reflects the moon, a disturbed mind cannot see the good hidden beneath layers of anger and resentment. The more one cultivates, the more one understands that patience is not endurance, but knowing to choose peace as a refuge. The Buddha taught that anger is like fire. If we embrace it, it burns us first. To conquer others, one must make others submit. But to conquer oneself, one only needs to know when to stop. When one thought of anger is conquered, 1,000 sufferings will gradually recede. There was a small market in a rural area where a man named Tho worked as a security guard. Everyone loved him because he was kind, spoke little, and was always willing to help anyone in need. Every morning, he would arrive early to clean the market gate. Every evening, he would carefully close the gates of each stall. On rainy days, he would cover the awnings for vendors so they wouldn't get wet. On cold days, he would bring a pot of hot tea and offer it to everyone. Many said he lived in a disadvantaged way, but his heart was light, like a cloud drifting across the blue sky. One evening, a butcher named Quan, after getting drunk, stumbled into the market. When Mr. Tho reminded him that it was past closing time and he couldn't enter, Quan immediately became angry. He cursed Mr. Tho with very harsh words, and even said that as a mere security guard, he had no authority. Those around him were indignant. Someone advised Mr. Tho to retaliate, but Mr. Tho just smiled. He didn't say a single word, only gently stepped back to let Quan pass. The next morning, Quan sobered up and remembered what happened the previous night. He was filled with regret for having spoken thoughtlessly. He sought out Mr. Tho to apologize. The guard simply smiled and said, "If I had gotten angry last night, you would have lost face, and I would have lost blessings." Looking at his kind smile, Quan bowed his head, choked with emotion. From then on, every time he saw Mr. Tho, he would greet him very politely and even help him with his work when he had free time. Mr. Tho's story was not grand, yet it changed the way many people in the market thought. Patience is not defeat, but preserving the most precious thing, one's own mind. If Mr. Tho had retaliated that day, a major conflict might have erupted. A relationship might have broken. A person might have lived forever in shame and regret. It was thanks to his patience in that one moment of anger that both individuals preserved their dignity. That story reminds us of the Buddha's words in the Dhammapada. Do not respond to anger with anger. Responding to anger with anger only increases anger. Respond to anger with love, and anger will dissipate. There are times when words are like wind, but our reaction can determine an entire lifetime. Patience is not fear, but wisdom. Endurance is not weakness, but compassion. The more one understands the Dharma, the more one avoids harsh words. The more one has wisdom, the less one judges. The more one cultivates the mind, the more one knows when to keep silent. Because silence is not defeat, but choosing peace as a companion. My teacher taught that one who can smile, even when others are angry, is truly strong. To let go of anger, one must first realize that nothing can cause us suffering if we don't cling to it. Human psychology is very often agitated by small interactions. Sometimes, just a gentle word can make us tense. Sometimes, just an impolite action can make us displeased. But if we observe our mind, we will see that this reaction is just a habit, not our true nature. Children cry when angry. Adults speak harsh words when angry. But one who practices the Dharma, when angry, knows to stop and look within. We cannot prevent others from speaking, but we can choose not to let their words control our mind. The mind is like a lake. Anyone can throw a stone into it, but whether it creates ripples or not depends on us. When a thought of anger arises and we conquer it, it's like extinguishing a small fire before it becomes a large blaze. When we want to speak words, but know when to stop at the right time, it's like holding a handful of ashes so they don't scatter everywhere. The Buddha taught that if someone insults us and we don't get angry, it's like they bring us a gift, but we don't accept it, so the gift still belongs to them. This reveals a profound truth. The attitude of others does not determine our mind, but our mind determines how we see everything. Happiness or suffering lies in internal control. Some people live in very materially abundant circumstances, but their minds are always hot as if in fire. Some people live a simple life, but their minds are as cool as the wind blowing through a bamboo grove. When the mind is calm, the scenery is calm. When the mind is at peace, the scenery is at peace. Patience is not for others to win against us, but to keep our mind from being burned by anger. So what do we learn from these lessons on patience? First, to observe the mind when anger arises. Do not react immediately when emotions are strong. If you cannot speak kindly, then be silent and breathe. A deep breath can save a lifetime. 1 minute of stopping can preserve a valuable relationship. Next, practice putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Perhaps that person is under too much pressure. Perhaps they are suffering much more than we are, and we don't know it. When we understand the reason behind others' actions, we will blame them less and feel a little more compassion. At that point, patience is no longer endurance, but transformation. Finally, remember that everything is impermanent. Anger does not last. Sorrow does not linger. Afflictions will also pass. Only the way we behave remains forever in the memories of others. If each day we can reduce a little anger, it's like lighting another candle for our mind. When the mind has light, we can see the path. When the mind knows patience, blessings will gradually accumulate. A kind person may suffer disadvantages in the short term, but will find peace for a lifetime. A bird never argues with the sky. It simply flies gently through all layers of wind. If the human mind knows how to be still, it can overcome all adversities. To live without being carried away by anger is true strength. Tell yourself that patience is not losing, but preserving blessings. Patience is not endurance, but the path to the Dharma. When we conquer one thought of anger, we conquer ourselves. 1 moment of patience brings 100 blessings. 1 step back, the ocean is vast, the sky is high. One who reacts with anger only sees what is immediately in front of them. One who knows patience will see an entire world open up behind. When we overcome resentment, we will draw closer to peace. When we maintain a smile amidst the storm, we have traveled halfway on the path to liberation. And as long as the mind still wishes to live kindly, the sky of karma will always protect us. Just keep a gentle heart, and no matter how strong the wind, we will never fall. This life is like a river that flows endlessly. The water is sometimes clear, sometimes murky, sometimes calm, sometimes raging, sometimes rising, sometimes receding, never standing still. We humans are the same. No one can maintain an emotion forever. No one stays in one state of mind forever. And we cannot be at peace if we keep nurturing anger in our hearts. Some say that a strong person is one who knows how to retaliate, knows how to argue back, knows how to resist fiercely so as not to be disadvantaged. But in truth, like the wind, the more it strikes the ground, the weaker it becomes. Only when the wind knows how to retreat into the stillness of the blue sky does it find its true strength. And in this impermanent life, the more a person matures, the more they understand that love is strength. Love is wisdom. Love is the path that leads our soul back to the shore of peace. There are nights when we feel like a falling leaf in the dark, surrounded by cold. We don't see the presence of those who love us, but we keep remembering those who hurt us. That feeling is like walking in the rain without shelter. The wetter we get, the colder we become. And the colder we get, the more lonely we feel. But if at that time we know how to look at the impermanent nature of life, we will see that the raindrops are not meant to make us suffer, but to cleanse our souls. Those who once hurt us are not meant for us to carry hatred for a lifetime, but for us to learn the lesson of compassion. Only when our mind is clear enough do we understand that love is not weakness, not allowing others to exploit or trample us, but a journey of self-transformation. According to Buddhist teachings, the root of all suffering comes from our mind clinging to hatred, to anger, to resistance. The more the mind resists, the more it tires. The more it is angry, the more exhausted it becomes. The more it resents, the more it loses balance. It's like holding a hot coal in our hand with the intention of throwing it at someone else. Who will be the first to get hurt? Ourselves. All the anger we carry in our hearts is like a fire burning our own heart. The Buddha taught that hatred cannot be extinguished by hatred. Only love can extinguish hatred. That is the eternal law. These words are not just to be read, but to illuminate a whole life. If we don't learn how to love, we will live with our own angry mind, and that is the most painful judgment in a human lifetime. Many people think that loving means accepting disadvantage, accepting weakness. However, if a person can remain calm amidst insults, still smile when faced with injustice, still help someone who once hurt them, then that person must be very strong, very courageous, and very wise to be able to do that. Getting angry is easy. Blaming is common. But those who can love are few. The more one has wisdom, the more one understands that suffering people cause suffering to others. People full of wounds inflict wounds on others. Impulsive people easily hurt those around them. A profound person will choose to embrace peace in their heart to save both themselves and others from long-term suffering. That is why, in Buddhist teachings, there is a wonderful principle. If you want to understand someone, love them first. When we love, we look deeper into that person's life. We see the root causes of the pain they carry. There are people we think are bad, but when we look deeply into their eyes, we only see a forgotten child. There are people we think are terrible, but when we take a step back, we realize how many times they have struggled with fate. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught that one who knows how to love is one who knows how to see, and one who knows how to see has wisdom. Therefore, love is not just an emotion. Love is a deep understanding of the nature of this life. There is a very ordinary story that contains a great lesson about love. It is the story of Nam, a 15-year-old boy who lived with his father, Mr. Fat. Mr. Fat had been addicted to alcohol for many years. Whenever something displeased him, he would curse and even sometimes hit Nam. Many told Nam that he should hate his father. He should blame his father. He should resist so that his father would fear him. But Nam didn't do that. Instead of harboring hatred in his heart, he secretly worked extra jobs after school, saving every penny to take his father to a rehabilitation center. At first, Mr. Fat refused, even cursing Nam. But gradually, he began to see the sad but hopeful eyes of his son. One evening, he asked, "Why don't you hate me? Why don't you leave me?" Nam simply said, "Because I love you, Dad. Only those who suffer cause others to suffer. If I hate you, you will suffer even more. I don't want that." Hearing those words, Mr. Fat burst into tears. It was the first time he cried in front of his son. After a long period of rehabilitation, he completely quit drinking. He changed, became calm, learned to take care of himself, and listened to his son. He said, "For many years, I lived in darkness, but you relit the light and helped me step out of that darkness." Someone asked Nam, "Do you feel disadvantaged? Do you feel weak?" Nam just smiled and said, "I'm not weak. I just choose to be strong in my own way. And the strongest is when we know how to love, even when it's very difficult." That story is not for us to admire or praise the boy, but to remind us that in this life, there is always a third way. A way that is not anger, not resistance, but the way of love and understanding. Because love is light, anger is darkness. Light always wins when we know how to choose. There are people who are so hurt that they feel helpless, only knowing how to run away from all relationships. Others choose to resist their entire lives to prove their strength. But truly, strong people are those who can be silent when angry, keep their minds clear when everything around them is chaotic, and know how to love before blaming. Love is not easy, but that very difficulty makes love a kind of strength that few possess. Like the bamboo tree, it looks soft, but is actually very strong. Bamboo withstands storms. It bends so as not to break. It knows how to yield so as not to be uprooted. A person who knows how to love is the same. Outwardly, they may be quiet, but inwardly, they possess extraordinary resilience. According to the Buddha's teachings, to truly love, one must first have enough wisdom to see that everyone has suffered. In the Dhammapada, there is a saying, "This body is not me. This emotion is not me. The person who hurts us today may just be a temporary garment that karmic results put on. If we think this way, we will resent less, blame less, and begin to look at life with gentler eyes. When someone speaks harshly to us, we should not rush to react, but ask ourselves, what pain lies behind those words? What has that person been through that made them act that way? When we ask like this, our mind will naturally settle. We no longer want to win or lose, but only want to understand to help ourselves not get caught up in the other person's anger. My teacher once said that when you love someone, you no longer want to win against them. You only want to look at them with understanding. That kind of love is healing. That kind of love is the path of mind cultivation. That love is not weakness, but a silent, persistent strength. Water is soft, but can wear down stone. Wind is invisible, but can blow away dark clouds. Moonlight is silent, but can make an entire lake shimmer. Love is the same. The deeper it is, the lighter it makes the human heart. But love does not mean allowing oneself to be exploited. Love must be accompanied by wisdom. If someone hurts us too much, we can still love. But we must know how to maintain a distance. Love is understanding, not indulgence. It is helping others, but also helping oneself maintain a peaceful mind. And to do that, one must cultivate from within. One must reflect on one's mind daily to know if it is angry or loving, agitated or clear. In the Lotus Sutra, it is said, if your mind can keep its light, then all suffering will become fertile ground for you to sow seeds of love. Finally, love is not just to be spoken, but to be lived. Each day, a little. We reduce a point of anger, increase a feeling of love. Each day, a little, we try to understand instead of blame. Each day, a little, we choose silence when necessary, choose to step back when appropriate, to give the other person an opportunity to reflect on themselves. Love does not always work miracles immediately, but one thing is certain. Love always sows seeds of happiness, while anger only sows hatred. And we must choose what seeds we want to sow in this life. And at some point, we will understand that a strong person is not one who wins, but one who can smile calmly amidst challenges. A wise person is not one who is good at arguing, but one who knows how to maintain a kind mind at the right time. A person of spiritual path is not one who knows 8 scriptures, but one who knows how to love even after being hurt. And a truly free person is not one who has everything, but one who does not let their mind be chained by resentment. One who can love amidst suffering is one who is walking the path of enlightenment. For only when light is kindled from within will darkness gradually be dispelled. If one day you feel your heart heavy, slow down a bit, take a deep breath, and tell yourself that love is not weak. Love is the beginning of the journey to the shore of peace. No matter how life tilts, keep your mind calm. No matter how cold people are, keep your heart warm. A little love sown today. Who knows, tomorrow it might become a miracle in the heart of someone who needs healing. There are days when our soul is like the surface of a lake on a calm yet deep evening sky. We think the waves have settled, but just a gentle breeze is enough to make ripples appear again. Life is similar. We can live kindly, keep our hearts upright, not wishing to bother anyone, but there will still be times when we are misunderstood criticized, or judged by someone looking into our inner self with cold eyes. The impermanence of life is not just in youth and death, but also in every gaze, every word, every hasty thought of humans. Some people just glance and immediately harbor a critical remark. Some people just hear a rumor about a story and immediately pass judgment. That is the impermanence of perception, the impermanence of human hearts, and the impermanence of our own consciousness. Like the clouds in the sky, they seem very real, but if you try to touch them, you can't grasp anything. Rumors are the same. They seem solid, but are actually very fragile. Some say that when someone misunderstands us, we must stand up and explain. We must find a way to prove ourselves right. But there are also people who have experienced many storms in life and choose to remain silent and smile because they know that the truth never needs justification. Karma doesn't need words. Time is the best answer. According to Buddhist teachings, misunderstanding is a form of ignorance. The person who misunderstands us may not be bad, but their mind is still clouded, so they cannot clearly see the true nature of things. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that the foolish rejoice when they see others' faults, but the wise begin to mend their own faults when they see them. If a person does not have enough wisdom to look deeply into another's heart, they will easily judge. We cannot blame them, because that is the level of perception they currently have. It's like a person standing on the ground who cannot clearly see the scenery on a high mountain. The human mind is the same. If it has not reached clarity, it can only see very little. If we try to argue with such a person, we will forever be drawn into the vortex of winning and losing, and eventually lose our inner peace. Misunderstanding is like a layer of smoke passing across our face. If we try to chase it away, the more we stir, the less we see the path. But if we stand still, after a while the smoke will naturally dissipate. Some misunderstandings initially hurt us deeply, but the more we cling to them, the more we get hurt. People have a very strange habit. When they are misunderstood by others, they think that if they don't clarify, they will lose face. But in fact, there is a deeper truth. If we keep trying to clarify, we will lose time and lose our inner tranquility. In psychology and Buddhism, there is a common point. The human mind, when attacked, will react immediately. But if we know how to stop for a few more minutes, our mind will become clearer, and wisdom will naturally emerge. Someone once asked, "If others misunderstand me, what should I do?" A Zen master replied, "Live rightly and live kindly, then let time answer." Time is the river that washes away the dust of misunderstanding, and karma is the sun that illuminates all right and wrong. In this life, no one can escape karma. Those who misunderstand us will one day realize the truth. As the saying goes, those who misunderstand us do so only because they lack the wisdom to see. Those who speak ill of us do so only because they are creating karma for themselves. Within each person, there exists a fear of being judged. Fear that others think wrongly of us. Fear that others doubt us. Fear that an incorrect word will make us lose our image in the eyes of others. But the more we fear, the more we hurt. The more we justify, the more confused we become. Because the nature of misunderstanding is a shadow. The more you chase it, the less you catch it. Only when we gather enough calm to stand still will we see that the shadow is merely an illusion and cannot harm our deepest inner self. From the Buddhist perspective, all thoughts others have about us are merely illusory thoughts in their minds. Illusory thoughts arise, exist, and then disappear. If we cling to them, we will make ourselves slaves to the opinions of others. There's a story that has deeply moved many people, the story of Mrs. Bay in a small village in the countryside. She lived kindly, without contention, simply tending her small garden behind her house and cooking simple meals every day. But one day, someone in the village lost a chicken. No one could find the culprit, but they coincidentally saw Mrs. Bay passing by there the previous afternoon. That alone was enough for rumors to spread. People began to look at her with suspicion. Some even said that she must be too poor, so she stole to have something to eat. These words were like invisible stones thrown at her heart, but she didn't react. She just smiled gently and said, "They'll understand eventually." At the next market day, almost the entire village didn't buy her vegetables. People stood far away, looking at her and whispering. Some even said directly to her face, "If you're poor, just say so. Everyone would sympathize. Why would you do something like that?" But she just bowed her head and replied calmly, "If I explain, would you believe me? I only hope that one day the truth will speak for me." Some time later, one evening, people heard fierce dog barking. A few people ran out to see, and they found the village dog carrying the carcass of a chicken. At that moment, everything became clear. The chicken hadn't been stolen, but had been carried off by the dog. The villagers began to feel regret. They came to apologize to Mrs. Bay. They thought she would scold, would be angry, but she just smiled. "I knew one day you would understand. I'm not sad. Sometimes people misunderstand us, not to make us suffer, but to make us learn how to keep our mind at peace." She wasn't angry, didn't blame, didn't complain. She lived like the calm water of an autumn lake. Even if someone threw stones into it, it would only ripple for a moment, and then become still again. That story makes us think deeply. Why didn't Mrs. Bay need to justify herself? Why didn't she argue? Perhaps because she knew that the truth doesn't need words, and people's hearts will change when they have enough time to reflect. The Buddha once taught that the foolish often want to speak a lot, while the wise only choose silence when they see it's unnecessary. Silence is not defeat. Silence is keeping the heart pure. Silence is trusting in karma. Silence is creating blessings for oneself. In a verse, Patriarch Kui Sun once wrote, "Gossip is like the wind passing by the ear. The wise merely keep their mind like still water. Live calmly, and you will see the moon." The moon hasn't disappeared. It's just that the water is disturbed, so we don't see it. The truth is the same. When people's minds are full of turmoil, they cannot clearly see what is real and what is false. But when the mind is at peace, they will understand and see everything clearly. If we are misunderstood, the first thing to do is not to argue, but to keep a kind heart and live rightly. If someone hurts us with untrue things, don't rush to justify ourselves, because only those who fear they are wrong need to justify themselves. Those who live uprightly will choose to smile. Smiling is not to endure nor to overlook, but to protect the wellspring of peace in our soul. Because only when our mind is still pure are we clear enough to see the path we need to take. However, silence does not mean resignation. Silence does not mean allowing others to continue causing harm. Silence is just a way to remind us. All words must come from wisdom, not from emotion. When the fire of anger has subsided, at that moment we can speak. But speak with a peaceful mind. Speak in a way that helps the other person realize the truth, not to win with words. That is the conduct of a cultivated person. When we are misunderstood, remember that we are not alone. Think of those in history who were misunderstood, like the Buddha when he first began to spread the Dharma. He was doubted by many, but he did not blame anyone. He just remained silent and continued his journey. Eventually, the light of truth dispelled all the dark clouds in the hearts of worldly people. Silence, at that time, was not weakness, but a means of wisdom. Time is like a fair teacher. Right and wrong, justice and injustice will eventually return to their rightful place. And karma is like a judge, understanding all things in this life. If someone misunderstands us, let karma speak for us. If someone slanders us, let time bring justice. If someone harms us, let karmic conditions lead them to their main lesson. We don't need to compete. We don't need to explain. We just need to live kindly, cultivate a clear mind, and walk the right path. And all misunderstandings will gradually dissipate like fog under the morning sun. Remember that every time we are misunderstood is an opportunity to cultivate our mind, to cultivate so as not to be angry, to cultivate to maintain peace, to cultivate to know that this life is not a place to compete for victory, but a place to grow. Growth not through external victories, but through internal growth. That is true strength. If one day you are also misunderstood, please smile like Mrs. Bay did back then, because that smile is the most beautiful word a person can offer to life. Living kindly is preserving blessings. Living rightly is maintaining the mind. When the mind is at peace, the sky will brighten. Just walk with goodness in your heart, and time will speak for you. There is one thing that the older one gets, the easier it is to realize, but the harder it is to accept. That is, human life is as fragile as a dewdrop clinging to a blade of grass in the morning. Just as it glistens in the sunlight, a gentle breeze passes, and the dewdrop vanishes. Similarly, in life, just a small incident can leave many plans unfinished. Just a thoughtless word from someone can stir our minds. Just a slight misunderstanding can suddenly make our heart heavy. Life is inherently impermanent. Nothing guarantees that tomorrow will be like today. Everything is changing every minute, every second. The river never flows backward. The wind never completely stops. The clouds in the sky never stay in one place forever. Humans are the same. Thoughts change, moods change, emotions change. Yet, this very impermanence, instead of helping us gently let go, causes us more suffering over trivial matters. We suspect at a slightly different glance. We dwell on a slightly harsh word. We take something displeasing to heart. We forget that everything in life is just borrowed, including sadness and anger. If we hold on to it, it's heavy. Only by putting it down do we become light. When we begin to talk about suffering, we often think that suffering is caused by others. They insult us, they make us sad, they say hurtful words, They don't understand us. They judge us. We believe that the source of pain lies externally, and that we are merely victims. But in Buddhism, suffering has never come from outside. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from clinging, from attachment, from discrimination. A word has no form, no weight. It is not a stone, but often it is heavier than a stone because of how we think about it. A criticism can be as light as the wind, but when it enters the mind of someone with much self-doubt, it becomes a storm. If the mind is not strong enough, even a small breeze can make us stumble. But if the mind is already at peace, a great storm is just the sound of wind whistling through the eaves, heard for a moment, and then gone. Suffering actually does not come from criticism. Suffering comes from our believing in that criticism. Suffering does not come from someone's unpleasant gaze. Suffering comes from our thinking that they despise us. Most negative emotions are fueled by interpretation, by ego, by the self. Our mind is like water. If the water is murky, the moon's reflection cannot be seen. If the water is still, everything naturally becomes clear. The ancients said that when the mind is still, the waves are calm. When the mind is chaotic, the waves churn. Suffering or peace are created by ourselves, not by circumstances, not by others, not by anyone bringing or taking away. All arise from the very thoughts in our minds. If someone says a critical word, but we don't take it to heart, that word falls and dissipates like rain falling on the ground. But if we hold on to it, repeat it in our minds, seeing pain from every angle, then we have turned the other person's words into a knife stabbing ourselves. Whose hand holds the knife is not as important as whether we plunge the knife into our own heart. The Buddha said that all phenomena arise from the mind, meaning all joy and suffering in the world arise from the mind. When the mind is at peace, critical words become light as the wind. When the mind is agitated, unintentional words turn into wounds. In daily life, everyone has suffered at least once because of what others said. Sometimes it's a thoughtless word. Sometimes it's a joke, but it hits a raw nerve. Sometimes people have no ill intention, but we interpret it negatively. Then we make our own hearts troubled, cause ourselves sleepless nights, and exhaust ourselves. Sometimes just a simple question to ourselves is enough to escape suffering. That question is this worth losing an entire day of peace? The story of Mr. Tongue is a very common example. Tongue was a kind, diligent man, but carried a lot of self-doubt. From a young age, he always feared he wasn't good enough, fast enough, or as good as others. That self-doubt was like a thick layer of dust clinging to the mirror of his self. Anyone who looked into it saw a flaw. Anything anyone said touched his ego. One day, while working at the company, a colleague named Vi casually made a critical remark. Tongue works too slowly. Vi just said it out of habit and immediately forgot about it. But Tongue didn't. The moment he heard those words, his face flushed, his heart felt heavy, his mind spun. Tongue thought he was truly incompetent, that people despised him, and everyone must see how slow he was. He abandoned all joy for the day to cling to that remark. That night, he tossed and turned, his mind as restless as a dry leaf blown by the wind. He lost sleep. all because of a remark that lasted less than 3 seconds. The next morning, he met Vi and decided to ask why she had criticized him that way yesterday. Vi smiled gently and said that she was just teasing. She said she saw him looking a bit sleepy that day, so she made a joke to lighten the mood, with no intention of criticizing or hurting him. Vi didn't think much of it, but Tung had dwelled on that comment all night, and at that moment he was startled. The suffering he carried was not created by Vi. It was created by his own mind clinging to those words. Vi didn't speak harshly. Tung himself made the words harsh. Vi didn't make him lose sleep. He himself used Vi's words to torment himself. Suffering originated from his own mind, not from others. At that moment, Tung remembered his teacher's words. With the same criticism, an angry person suffers for weeks. A mindful person smiles a little and then lets go. A simple truth that everyone needs to realize. In life, no one can avoid praise or criticism. Heaven creates people with countless personalities. Each person sees things differently, perceives things differently. They speak according to their own minds. Whether we suffer or are at peace depends on our mind. If the mind is agitated, a gentle breeze becomes a storm. If the mind is calm, a great storm turns into a fleeting gust of wind. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught that the mind is the root of all phenomena. When the mind is defiled, words and actions are also defiled. When the mind is pure, all suffering disappears. There is a beautiful line in the sutra. Victory over 1,000 armies is not equal to victory over oneself. And oneself here does not mean defeating one's physical body, but overcoming the negative emotions created by oneself. If someone says something unpleasant and we get angry, that is not their fault. It is our mind that is not yet firm. If someone unintentionally makes us sad and we hold on to it, that is not their karma. That is us creating karma for ourselves by holding on to unnecessary pain. Patriarch Bodhidharma once said, "The mind is like a clear mirror. Dust will stick if it lingers too long. What others say is their business. What we keep in our minds is our business." If we keep collecting others' words into our hearts, it's no different from gathering dust into a mirror and then blaming the mirror for being blurry. A mature person is not one who is never criticized. A mature person is one who knows what to keep in their mind. What does not nourish peace should be given back to the wind. What someone says belongs to them, not to us. But whether we let it affect us or not is what determines whether we are at peace or suffer. And looking back at life, we will see that many of our own pains come from our unwillingness to let go of small things. A word, a glance, a comment, a time someone didn't value us. Our mind reacts strongly simply because we cling to our ego. To find peace, one must learn to live lightly, like water. When it meets a stone, it flows around. When it meets the wind, it gently ripples. When it meets the sun, it evaporates. When it meets cold, it turns into ice. Water does not resist anyone, yet it is the most resilient thing. One who knows how to let go of others' words is the same. No competition, no clinging, no strong reactions, just calm and at ease. The lesson from Tung's story is a common lesson for many people. Suffering in life sometimes doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from our mind's unwillingness to relax. We place too much on our minds. We pay too much attention to things. We expect too much perfection from others. We want everyone to understand us, everyone to love us, everyone to treat us fairly. But life is not like that, and doesn't need to be. Our job is not to make everyone treat us kindly. Our job is to keep our mind firm so that no matter what others say, we are not easily shaken. From the day he understood that, Tung was no longer bothered by small criticisms. When he heard someone say something unpleasant, he asked himself, "Is this worth losing a peaceful evening?" And most of the time, the answer was no. He learned to smile as people smile at a cloud drifting across the sky. Whatever shape the cloud takes, whether dark or white, it does not bother the sky. Others' words are the same. We cannot change their minds, but we can change our own. In daily life, everyone needs a quiet space within their heart. That space only expands when we know how to let go of unnecessary things. If someone says something that annoys us, instead of reacting, we can breathe gently and think, "This is just the sound of the wind." If we meet someone who doesn't understand us, we can tell ourselves that they see from their perspective, and we live according to our own heart. When the mind is sufficiently peaceful, nothing can touch us too deeply. When the mind is sufficiently clear, no one can make us lose sleep just because of a few unintentional words. The most important thing is to understand that we don't need to compete with life or with anyone. Heaven sees all, karma repays. Each person bears the karma of their own words. We don't need to retaliate. We just need to keep our mind clear. A clear mind makes the path clear. A peaceful mind makes life peaceful. And dear friend, if one day you find your heart wavering just because of someone's words, remember a simple truth that liberates so many souls. Suffering arises from the mind, and peace also arises from the mind. Suffering or peace are both your own choice. Let your heart be light, like a cloud drifting across the vast sky. Let your mind be soft, like water flowing around hard stones. Let your life be serene like moonlight reflecting on a still lake. Just choose peace, and peace will find you. There are evenings when we sit watching clouds drift across the vast sky and suddenly realize that no cloud can maintain a shape forever. First round, then distorted. First white, then gray. First gathered, then dispersed. Clouds change every moment, just like human emotions. Sometimes happy, sometimes sad, sometimes loving, sometimes angry. Life is inherently impermanent, like the gentle breath of wind skimming the surface of a lake. Just a small gust of wind is enough to create countless ripples. A small word is enough to stir a person's heart. A small incident can make a person change their entire life. Everything is passing day by day, hour by hour, not waiting for anyone and not stopping for anyone. Life is a river that flows endlessly. No drop ever returns to its origin. People in life meet and then part, love and then break up, find happiness and then suffer pain. Nothing is immutable. Nothing belongs to anyone forever. Yet, the strangest thing is that people often hold on to old pains, past resentments, wounds inflicted by others long ago. They hold on to them as if holding a hot stone in their hand. The tighter they grip, the more it hurts. The longer they hold, the more it burns. Forgiveness, therefore, becomes the greatest lesson that everyone needs to learn in life. But forgiveness is the most difficult thing. Difficult not because the other person hurt us so much. Difficult because the ego within us is too big. Difficult because we think that forgiveness is abandoning fairness. Difficult because we mistakenly believe we are doing wrong by overlooking the one who hurt us. But in reality, forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. Forgiveness only concerns ourselves. Buddhist teachings say that suffering is not created by others, but by our clinging to what they have done. Others may hurt us once, but we remember it forever, resent it forever, dwell on it, keep bringing it up, and thereby make ourselves suffer countless times more. The person who hurt us may have slept soundly long ago, while we lie awake at night because of old memories. The person who hurt us may have moved on with their life, while we stand still at the very place the pain began. According to Buddhist teachings, the human mind is like water. If the water is clear, the moon's reflection will be bright. If the water is murky, no matter how full the moon, it cannot reflect. A mind filled with anger cannot see the path. A mind filled with hatred cannot find peace. A mind that does not forgive is like tying oneself to the past. That is why teachers often remind us that forgiveness is not because the other person deserves it. Forgiveness is because we need peace. To forgive others is to forgive oneself. To open one's heart for the wind to carry away the worries that have lingered there for too long. When we analyze human psychology, we realize that most pain does not lie in the action, but in the memory of that action. There are things that happen once, but we recount them 100 times. Each time we recount, the pain revives. There are things someone said many years ago, but we remember every word clearly. If someone accidentally or intentionally hurts us, the pain only truly deepens when we replay it in our memories. That is why in modern psychology, as well as in Buddhist teachings, it is emphasized that anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. The more we are angry with others, the more we suffer. The more we wish others to suffer, the more we lose our peace. Meanwhile, the other person may be completely unaware of our torment. They live normally, they smile, they sleep soundly. Only we are the ones who embrace the long, restless night. The human mind also has another characteristic. When we are angry with others, our heart naturally closes. When we hate others, our heart turns into a dark room. That room becomes increasingly narrow, suffocating, and hard to breathe in. Forgiveness, therefore, is opening that door to let light flood in. Just open the door, and gloom dissipates. Just put down the burden, and it becomes light. Forgiveness is a kind of courage. Courage to let go. Courage to break free from the past. Courage to move forward. Courage to live a new life without carrying the heavy stones of yesterday. In life, there are many stories of people who cannot forgive the past and cannot forgive themselves. But Ms. Han's story is a clear testament that just by changing one's mind, life will change accordingly. Ms. Han was once a woman who suffered much hurt. Her ex-husband cheated on her and treated her badly for many years. On the day of their divorce, everyone thought she would feel relieved. But no, even though she had left that marriage, she entered a room full of anger. She resented. She was sad and bitter. She felt betrayed. She felt insulted, her trust shattered. Every night, she tossed and turned. Her sighs mingled with the darkness. Every morning she woke up, she still felt anger, dominating her chest like a heavy stone. Because she was angry for too long, she lost sleep, lost weight, and her mood was unstable. Her friends saw her becoming increasingly gaunt, but didn't know how to pull her out of the spiral of the past. Although time passed, she still lived exactly in those painful moments from before. She allowed her ex-husband to appear in her mind every day, even though he had disappeared from her life long ago. One day, by chance, she heard a Dharma talk about forgiveness. The teacher explained that the person who hurts us only makes us suffer once, but if we remember it forever, we make ourselves suffer for life. Those words fell into her heart like a drop of water falling onto a parched lake bed. She sat motionless for a long time, as if her mind had just been touched in a place she never expected. She realized one thing. The person who caused her suffering had left, but the one holding on to the suffering was herself. The one holding the key to open the door to freedom was also herself. She was angry with her ex-husband, but all that time, the one who suffered was not him. The one who suffered was she. The one who lost sleep was she. The one who lost the joy of living was she. She understood that forgiveness was not for the other person to gain, but for herself to be liberated. That evening, she called a close friend and said something that her friend would repeat forever. She said, "He hurt me once, but I remember it forever, and I hurt myself for life." From that moment, she decided to stop the battle within her heart. She let go. She no longer wanted to carry the darkness of others. She wanted to start a new life in which her heart was no longer imprisoned by resentment, and a miracle happened. From the day she let go, she became healthier. She slept. She ate well. She no longer cried every night. Little by little, peace returned to her, like water finding its way to the sea, like a cool breeze passing through a bending bamboo forest. Looking at her after a few months, people believed that forgiveness could truly work wonders. When looking at Ms. Han's story from a Buddhist perspective, we see an even deeper truth. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that hatred cannot be extinguished by hatred. Only love can extinguish hatred. Love here is not loving the person who hurt us, but loving ourselves enough not to continue tormenting our own heart with old memories. Loving ourselves enough not to cling to what has passed. Loving ourselves enough to choose peace instead of resentment. Patriarch Bodhidharma also once said that the mind is the root of all joy and suffering. If the mind is not heavy, no one can make us suffer. If the mind is already light, no one can make us fall. And in Buddhist teachings, it is also clearly taught that forgiveness is wisdom, not weakness. The weak cling to anger. The strong can put it down. The lesson for us is to forgive, not because the other person deserves it. Forgive because we need peace. No one can live forever with resentment and find happiness. Resentment only closes our hearts, exhausts our hearts, and depletes our souls. Others may hurt us, but we have the right not to let that pain linger for too long. As soon as we choose to let go, we step out of the cage of the past. Forgiveness does not change others. It changes ourselves. It transforms us from a victim into the master of our own lives. It transforms a heavy heart into a free heart. In daily life, we can apply forgiveness by practicing observing our emotions. When someone makes us sad, instead of reacting immediately, we can pause for a beat. Breathe deeply, exhale, look at the emotion within us, and ask where it comes from. We might realize that this anger carries many old memories, many words from others, many past images. If we don't hold on to it, it dissipates on its own. If we don't add thoughts to it, anger will be like a dark cloud that passes and then vanishes. We can also remind ourselves that we don't want to imprison ourselves in sadness for another day. We choose to put it down. It may not happen all at once, but each time we put down a little, our heart will lighten a little, like gradually removing stones from a heavy backpack. Eventually, we will find our steps as light as the wind. And when a person learns to forgive, they can naturally look at life with gentler eyes. They see that everyone has a past, everyone makes mistakes, everyone has moments of weakness. No one is entirely right. No one is entirely bad. And without forgiveness, no one can live with anyone else. Life thus becomes softer, easier to breathe. We no longer have to be vigilant about everything, no longer have a pang of pain when seeing an old image, no longer have to fear that the past will return to hurt us again. Ultimately, the most important thing is to understand that we deserve a peaceful life. We deserve to sleep soundly every night. We deserve to smile every morning. We deserve to move forward without being bound by anyone who hurt us in the past. Forgiveness, therefore, is a gift we give ourselves. So, dear friend, if you are carrying any resentment in your heart, try to quiet your mind for a moment and ask yourself, do I want to carry this pain for another day? Let your heart be light, like the morning clouds being lifted by the wind into the high sky. Let your mind be soft, like water flowing around hard stones without being obstructed. Let your heart be serene like the moon, reflecting on a still lake in the peaceful night. And remember that if you just choose peace, peace will choose you. In this impermanent world, the human body is like a dewdrop clinging to a blade of grass. It glitters in the morning sun, but by evening, it has vanished into nothingness. There are things we think are solid, that we think will stay with us for a lifetime. It turns out they are just shadows of clouds drifting across the sky of life. People chase after so many things in this vast life. Yet the most essential thing to keep us steadfast against all changes is not money or fame, but the word peace in our heart and the word compassion in our mind. When the inner mind is peaceful, like the water of an autumn lake, no wind is strong enough to stir its depths. When there is compassion in our heart, no one can make us resentful. Like a bamboo tree standing in the wind, flexible but not breaking, bending down and then rising gently, yet firmly. A person with a peaceful mind is also like that. The orchid blooms in the dew, brightens in the sun, sways gently in the wind, but does not lose its petals. All the storms outside can only touch the body. They cannot penetrate to the root. In Buddhist teachings, peace is the root of the path, and compassion is the guiding direction. Peace is the strength that keeps the mind from being carried away by the ebb and flow of emotions, like tides rising and falling. Compassion is the light that helps us see others with eyes of understanding instead of judgment. One who has peace stands firm like a mountain. No matter how many years of rain, it does not waver. One who has compassion has a heart as broad as a river, embracing the afflictions of others, yet still maintaining its purity. When the mind is restless, we are easily drawn into competition and anger. Like fire meeting wind, it burns fiercer. Like water being stirred, it becomes murky, unable to reflect itself. But when the mind is at peace, all the harsh words of others become light, like the sound of wind rustling through the leaves of a bamboo grove. That is why the wise always teach that a person of wisdom does not avoid storms, but walks through them without being carried away. Humans often suffer because the mind is easily swayed by every small change in life. Just one disagreeable word from someone, and we react strongly. Sometimes, before we even have time to think, we utter words that hurt both ourselves and others. When the mind is not at peace, words and actions easily become a source of suffering for ourselves. An impulsive person is like an uncovered stove fire. Every gust of wind makes it flare up higher. Every touch makes it burn stronger. When faced with something contrary to their wishes, they immediately react. Words burst out like sharp arrows. Once shot, they cannot be retrieved. But afterward, they sit alone, tormented, regretting, and exhausted. All this stems from an inner lack of stability. A person lacking compassion is even more prone to suffering. When the mind is not expansive enough, we look at others with judgment, seeing only their faults without seeing the deeper reasons for their behavior. When not compassionate enough, we easily allow resentment to creep into our hearts and then nourish it day after day, month after month. A narrow mind is like the mouth of a well. Looking up at the sky, one only sees a small round patch, and then thinks the world is small. In reality, it is our own mind that is small, which makes life feel constrained. The Buddha taught that a person with a compassionate heart finds everyone and everything light, hears anything lightly, and thinks of anything lightly, because they know that everyone is carrying hidden suffering that outsiders cannot see. Compassion is not weakness, but a deep understanding of human nature. In a small temple on the outskirts, there's a story that many people remember about the transformation of a young student. It's the story of Tuan. This young man was always hasty and easily angered. Tuan's mind was always like water, boiling on a stove. If anyone touched it, it would violently flare up. At work, Tuan's impulsiveness often caused him to ruin tasks, simply because he couldn't control his emotions. At home, he often raised his voice and later regretted saying things that saddened his loved ones. When he came to the temple to study the Dharma, the thing that pained Tuan most was that he himself didn't understand why his mind was so restless, like someone walking in the dark, not knowing how to escape. Master Tri-Fap saw in Tuan a strong fire that could burn into wisdom, but could also destroy his life, if not tamed. The master did not scold or preach with harsh words. Every morning, he assigned Tuan the task of sweeping the temple courtyard. This seemed like a simple job, but for an irritable person, it was a great lesson. Each time he held the broom, Tuan saw leaves falling he wished. Sweeping on one side, the wind blew leaves to the other. While sweeping, a gentle gust of wind would make more leaves fall onto the courtyard. At first, Tuan was annoyed, feeling as if he had just finished, and then life ruined it again. But day after day, Tuan began to realize that the wind wasn't intentionally making things difficult for him. Falling leaves were a natural phenomenon of heaven and earth, not because someone hated him that made him suffer. Tuan's mind gradually softened, like water being filtered of sediment. After a few months, Tuan's mind changed remarkably. Leaves still fell in the temple courtyard, and the wind still blew as before. But Tuan was no longer irritable. He no longer saw sweeping the courtyard as an annoying task, but viewed it as a way to understand himself. One day, Master Tri-Fap stood watching from afar and said, "For one who has peace, whatever anyone says feels light." The Master's words awakened Tuan. He realized that life was never heavy. It was only because his mind accumulated too many afflictions that it felt heavy. One cannot teach someone peace merely with words. Only when one awakens oneself, looking deeply into the movements of the mind, does one truly understand what peace is and what compassion is. The Buddha's teachings always revolve around these two words. In the Dhammapada, it is taught that a peaceful mind is the source of happiness, and a disturbed mind is the root of suffering. When the mind is not at peace, even sitting under a cool tree, one feels hot. Even in a peaceful place, one feels uneasy. When the mind is at peace, even standing in a noisy street, one feels as calm as sitting on a mountaintop. And a compassionate mind is the root of all lasting happiness. Because one who has a compassionate mind has words as gentle as the autumn wind, eyes as kind as the moon, reflecting on water, bringing comfort to others wherever they go. The Zen master once said that one who carries a compassionate heart leaves a warm mark of peace wherever their footsteps go. Conversely, one who carries a resentful heart makes life heavier wherever they go. From Tuan's story, the efficacious Buddhist Teachings channel sees that peace is not escaping, not avoiding storms, but knowing how to pass through storms. Compassion is not weakness, but the strength not to react instinctively, but to look deeper, understand more broadly. One who has peace is not someone who is troubled by whatever anyone says, or whose mind is disturbed by anything that goes against their wishes. They are like a large tree in a wide field. The strong wind may sway its branches, but its trunk remains standing, its roots firmly planted. One who has compassion looks at others with forgiving eyes, like a mother looking at her crying child, knowing that the child cries not to resist, but because they are still young and tender. That compassion does not make them weak, but makes them stronger, because only strong people are capable of forgiveness. The everyday lesson that anyone can draw is that the nature of life does not make us suffer. Others do not make us suffer either. Only a restless mind causes us suffering. A lack of compassion makes us resentful. When we know how to cultivate peace and compassion in our hearts, criticisms and the storms of life are just like the sound of wind rustling through the bamboo grove in front of the temple. There is sound, but it does not make us stumble. We don't need to run out and adjust every gust of wind. We just need to keep our roots firm in our hearts. At that moment, life naturally becomes as light as moonlight, reflecting on a still lake. And if there's one message I can send to anyone listening to this Dharma talk to keep in their heart, it's this reminder. Peace does not come from changing others, but from changing our own perspective. Compassion does not come from artificial effort, but from a deep understanding that everyone carries their own suffering. When we maintain a peaceful mind, we are not swept away by life. When we maintain a compassionate mind, we do not make others suffer. Peace is like the root. Compassion is like the direction. If we go in the right direction, every path is clear. If we keep our roots firm, every storm will pass. Amidst the impermanent flow of life, the human body is just like a flower petal falling onto the surface of a lake. As soon as it touches the water, it dissolves into the current. All the things we try to hold on to will eventually slip from our grasp. All the things we embrace in our hearts will also fade with the years. People come and go, like gusts of wind sweeping across a bamboo grove, sometimes gentle, sometimes strong, sometimes making the bamboo leaves rustle, sometimes leaving a deep stillness in the heart. Ultimately, only we remain, standing in the midst of this vast life, looking back at the path we've walked and asking ourselves how we have lived. It's not about how much money or fame we carry, but whether we carry a kind or cruel heart, an expansive or narrow one. The world is inherently as fragile as moonlight reflecting on water. Just one ripple, and the moon's reflection is distorted. Humans are the same. Just a word, a small misunderstanding, can stir the mind and cause self-inflicted suffering. In Buddhist teachings, the things we consider important are actually just clouds drifting across the sky. They appear and disappear, unite and disperse. Those who cause us suffering, the things that hurt us, the things we stubbornly cling to in our hearts, at the very end, none of them can follow us. They fall behind, like autumn leaves leaving branches, blown away by the wind, no one remembering they ever existed. The only thing that follows us to the end of life is how our mind has been nurtured, whether it has learned to love or is still full of anger. Because karma is not measured by external things, but by the quality of our inner self. If we look deeply into human psychology, we will see that most suffering comes from our desire to win, to prove ourselves right, to have others acknowledge and obey us. But the more we contend, the hotter our mind becomes. The more we try to argue, the more restless our heart becomes. The more we want to win, the more we defeat ourselves. An angry person is like someone holding a burning coal in their hand, wanting to throw it at someone else. But before they can throw it, they are already burned. One who harbors resentment is like drinking a cup of poison, just waiting for others to suffer. The more we want to win, the more we bind ourselves with the invisible rope of anger. But one who knows how to be silent is like a lake when the wind stops blowing, naturally returning to stillness. That stillness is not weakness, but an expression of wisdom. In a small village, there was an elder named Tu, respected for his gentle nature. He once recounted his own story from his youth. Back then, there was a person in the village who constantly slandered him, fabricating stories to undermine his reputation among the villagers. This person spoke ill of him wherever he went, telling everyone all sorts of untrue stories. Many advised him to speak up to defend himself, but he just remained silent. One day, that person stood right outside his house, loudly insulting him and speaking bitter words. Those around were indignant on his behalf, thinking he was too kind. But Elder Tu remained calm, like the still water of an early autumn lake, without a ripple. That evening, his daughter asked why he didn't retaliate, despite being unjustly accused. He just smiled and said, "If you throw a handful of clay into clear water, the water will immediately become murky. But if you let it sit for a while, the clay will settle, and the water will become clear again." An angry person is like someone carelessly throwing dirt. The more you react, the more dirt clings to your clothes. Only by standing still and letting the matter settle can you maintain the purity of your inner self. A few months later, the person who slandered him encountered an unfortunate incident. The villagers then learned the truth, and Elder Tu continued to be respected. That story spread for many years as a lesson about gentle yet powerful silence. In Buddhist scriptures, it is also said that the wise do not engage in competition. For engaging in competition only thickens karma. The Dhammapada teaches that not responding to anger with anger is the greatest victory. When we are silent, it is not because we are afraid or weak, but because we know that every word, every action sows a seed for the future. If we retaliate with anger, we only sow more negative karma for ourselves. If we respond with kindness, we liberate ourselves from the cycle of suffering. Karma operates without deviating even a hair's breadth. One who does bad deeds will have their karma ripen naturally, whether we speak up or remain silent. One who does good deeds does not need to boast. Their blessings spread naturally, like the fragrance of flowers in the wind, unseen, yet anyone nearby can feel it. The greatest lesson in life is that ultimately we carry nothing with us except our mind. No one carries the person who once hurt them. No one carries the things that made them cry. No one carries the arguments that kept them awake at night. All fall behind when we close our eyes. What remains is how our inner self has been trained. A kind mind will be light. A cruel mind will be heavy. An expansive heart makes life expansive. A narrow heart makes life narrow. One who knows how to sow blessings will enjoy blessings for lifetimes. One who misses the opportunity to sow goodness will have to relearn old lessons for lifetimes. Understanding this, we realize that winning and losing are truly unimportant. Silence in the face of gossip, calmness in the face of attack, gentleness in the face of injustice are sometimes not failures, but wisdom. The beauty of the human mind lies in its ability to let go. When we let go of the need to prove ourselves, we also let go of the burden in our heart. When we let go of resentment, we return peace to ourselves. One who clings to the past only suffocates the present. One who holds on to anger only darkens the future. But one who knows how to let go has a soul as light as a morning cloud, drifting across the vast sky without getting entangled anywhere. Letting go is not forgetting, but not letting old wounds continue to control us. Silence is not surrender, but not letting temporary emotions destroy long-lasting peace. If there is one thing we should remember to live lighter each day, it is this: heaven sees all, karma has its laws, and no one does anything that escapes cause and effect. We don't need to rush. We don't need to try to speak up. We don't need to prove ourselves to anyone. Life has its own laws, and the justice of karma is so subtle that no one can interfere. When our mind is kind enough, the harsh or gentle words of others do not hurt us for long. When our mind is clear enough, hidden things will eventually reveal themselves. When our mind is compassionate enough, we see others more lightly, blame less. When our mind is released enough, we feel no longer bound by the past. When our mind is silent enough, external storms cannot disturb our inner peace. And finally, when we have walked a stretch of life's path, we will understand that peace has never been external. Not in winning or losing, nor in how others treat us. Peace lies right in the heart that knows how to live kindly, how to be silent, how to let go, how to love others. When we can live like this, every breath is light. Every day passes beautifully. And we realize that the peace we sought for so many years has always been right within our own mind, within our own mind.